It's been a busy week at the newly dubbed Odd Dead Out Voice Productions, editing, meetings, and lots of forward momentum in business. Of course, that doesn't mean that's all I had going on. It was a week, oddly, full of medical visits, but not in a bad way. In the news, it seems that everything revolves around death, if maybe only in the slightest way. Plus a couple of jackasses stopping traffic with their public affection, and I've got the results of my completely self-serving Twitter poll about what you like in the show.
Beginning Odd Dead Out podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Odd Dead Out podcast, where normal is not my specialty. I am your host, the hardest working podcaster in this particular subdivision of Surprise, Arizona, Adam Higgins, the Odd Dead Out. And, wow, that was a mouthful. On this show, I share some personal stories and rants and ramblings. I make fun of some news shows, and I typically send you home with a new podcast that I think you need to check out. Woo! That's a lot. So there's the thing about when I just kind of BS through the intro like that. That's what you get. I don't write this stuff. I just, that'll be funny. I should say that. 5 takes later, I got something that just really dumb. Anyway, thank you for listening. Man. Like I said at the top, this week I officially had to come up with a name for my production company, if you'd call it, my podcast editing, voice acting sort of venture that I've been diving into. I shouldn't say diving, I've been tiptoeing into it. I've got a demo up in one particular place for voice work, which is podcast related. I'm doing some work assisting other podcast editors, but it's baby steps, and I'm trying to kind of get used to the routine and the process and the whole thing, because I can't afford to just jump headfirst into this and say, okay, I'm going to quit my job and go full time into this, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of commitment. And that's potentially going to shoot myself in the ass. Never mind shooting myself in the foot. This is going to be so much worse. So, yeah. But I was basically forced to name the company because I had to make an invoice. And that's basically what it came down to. And I've been thinking about it for a while. I was like, how do I name the company? Because I need a name for the company. And I'd seen so many voice actors, and it seemed like the convention of make your website and name your brand as insert your name here, voice. Tawny Plattis from the Dirty Bits, great voice actress, great show, totally going to feature later when they're on season break right now. So when season 3 starts up of Dirty Bits, totally going to be covering that, but that's another thing. But Tawny is actually also, she does the intro for Nerds with Words. And she, her website, tawnyvoice.com, MikeLensVoice.com, lots of insert your name here, voice.com. And I didn't want to do that because, well, my company branding is intended to be beyond voice work. I'm not, in my first priority right now, especially, I love podcasting. That's the industry I work in. That's the industry I'm delving into, and I'm expanding upon with my venture in editing and voice work even. And so I wanted to have something that was a little more open, not just saying, hey, I'm a voice. I'm not just a voice. I'm a podcast producer. I'm a voice, but I also, edit. Like, the idea is editing and producing and doing these things. And I needed something that was a little bigger. And so I didn't want to say it's like Odd Dead Out Productions or Adam Higgins Productions, because that was almost too big. And it was actually something that I heard from a voice actor when he named his company, and it was like in his name here, Productions, and he was saying, oh, well, I wish I hadn't named my company that because, well, you say production, what do you produce? Are you a film studio? Are you an animation studio? Are you a music studio? Or what do you produce? There's such a wide, umbrella when you just say productions. And that's why I like, Emily from ePodcast Productions. It's right there. She narrows it down right there. It's ePodcast Productions because Emily is awesome. And so I really was like, what do I do? But I liked that sort of, I wanted Productions because I wanted it to represent more than just voice work, more than just podcasting. And I needed something that kind of grabbed that. And so my brain was like, voice productions. I want to say voice productions because it's podcast editing. That's voice production. Voiceover work and voice acting. That's voice production. You've got to do some sort of work on that. And I, with limited, I haven't done a lot of it, but I've done more produced bumpers and spots and things for other people that I'm totally down to do that too. But, and it's one of those things as I develop the company and my offerings in my little production bubble here, the things that I want to do and the things I can do and want to do and pricing. God, shit, how do you price your personal labor? It's really hard to do. So I'm learning all these things, but, I was talking to people. I was like, I'm trying to name my company. I'm trying to name the brand. And my wife just said, why aren't you just using Odd Dad Out? Like, that's your brand. That's who you are. That's who you've been. I did an entire episode about this like 2 years ago. I am the Odd Dad Out. That is my personal brand for everything. It's been my personal brand before the name existed, that logo. And in the last 3 years, that name, that's me. That's, you search Odd Dad Out, you're going to get me. You really aren't going to get much else. There might be an episode of another podcast or an episode of a TV show or something where that happens to be in there. But just that particular string of words in wordplay, in my case, that's my brand. That's a whole, my thing. And Rihanna was just like, why don't you just use that? And it turned into, okay, why not? And well, in my efforts to make things a little more professional sounding, I shortened it, at least in the sake of, for my invoices. So officially on my invoices and things and doodads, and as I'm developing and putting everything together, it's ODO Voice Productions, which sounds official. It in no way, much like this show, in no way tells you jack shit about me. It doesn't name me, and I find that funny that I do that in two entertainment industries where really you're selling yourself and you are the product. My name is nowhere to be found in the branding. I used to have my name in the title. It's like Odd Dad Out Podcast with Adam Higgins, but I cut it out because it was weird. I was like, it's like, who the hell am I to have my name on the show? Fuck it. But I just decided, you know what? Just cut it off. It sounds weird. It's too long. It's unnecessary. It's a little, for me, it's a little pretentious. I'm going to stick my name in there. It's not to cast shade on Mike Jolitz, but it is, for me, like, it feels like pretentious. Why are you going to listen to the Adam Higgins show? Now, there's tons of people who do that. There's tons of people who successfully say, my name is my brand, and Mike Jolitz is absolutely one of them. You think Mike Jolitz, his name is his brand. Even talking to him before, he kind of regrets having named his show and just stuck his full name in there because people always call him by his full name. Like in the podcast industry, it's not, oh, it's Mike. That's Mike Jolitz. Like, why? Because that's what you know him as. Just the same as I get a lot of people who just refer to me as the Odd Dad Out. my closer friends, like Emily and the guys from PRL and Chris, the Mole Man, and Mike Jolitz, and Gareth, from Garrett's Random Ramblings. They call me by my name. But very, very frequently, people just know me as the Odd Dad Out. And whereas Mike Jolitz, his brand is his name. And his face, even in his artwork, even though it's animated, Mike Jolitz, his name is his brand. In my case, this name that I've created and the logo that I drew forever ago, that's my brand. That's where I've at. And it's extended into basically everything I do is in black and white. Why? Because I drew a black and white drawing and it works. And it's the thing, all these little branding things and things that have kind of flowed together, and it's turned into this weird thing where I felt it, and it felt necessary for me. I didn't want to separate this show and this brand from what I do, because in this show, my personality and for to a certain degree, my voice work ability, my voice acting ability shows through in that I can read. Believe it or not, I actually read the intro now. Not the whole spiel, welcome to and all that stuff. No, I pull that out of my ass. But the pre-roll bit, the cold open, as they would say, that I actually read that now. Can't necessarily tell. Again, 5 or 6 takes later. But that's more of, I didn't like the way it was. But I'm actually reading it. And it's, I'm a decent reader at that sort of thing. Years of hanging out in radio stations. What can I say? It's in my genes. Okay, nothing's in my jeans. I'm wearing pajama pants right now. Whatever. Show days. I'm not leaving the house. I stay in my pajamas until I have to get ready for work. There's no point in changing twice. But anyway. But yeah, I was like, you know what? That's right. That's who I am. That's my brand. Now I've got to come up with a logo. And because I'm stubborn as hell, I'm trying to incorporate that original Odd Dad Out artwork into it, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to do. I'm having a hard time with it. It's a voice work production company, and it's much harder to swing. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just stick it in there somewhere. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I had to bill somebody for work I did, and so I had to make an invoice, which is weird. And I had to go and spend the time and set up PayPal invoicing, and I've got my basically my account for billing and all these little things, and I have to give super mad props and so many thanks to Emily from the Story Behind and ePodcast Productions. She's been helping me out so much with all this. Hey, and I asked her, how do you price things? How is it that you do this thing and how's this thing? She actually sent me first off, she set me up with, there's a podcast production company. They do voice work. They, voiceover, intro, outro, stuff like that. They do those things, and they needed talent. So she actually set me up with them. So I have a demo for voiceover for intros and things like that at podcastfasttracks.com. Fast Tracks? I don't remember if there's an S. Sorry. But I've got one over there. If you want to hire them or you want to hire me, whatever, we can talk. Anyway, but they do intro, outro, things like that. I do that myself. But so I've got a demo over there with them. And I've kind of been throwing that, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Because again, podcaster brain and infinite imposter syndrome, I don't know how good it is. I don't know how good I sound when I'm recording something. And it's not even a lack of confidence thing. It's I know how it sounds to me, but how do you think it sounds? Do you think this is okay? Next to me, my wife is my harshest critic. Absolutely. My wife will straight up tell me the show sucked today. And so I sent it to her. She said she liked it. I sent it to Emily. She said she liked it. So and she's like, you can't even tell you're reading. Thank you. It's a fortunate talent I have. But it was funny because I'm just like, I'm completely in my head about all these things. But again, back to Emily on all of these, she set me up with all these things. She also just emailed me she has an Excel spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet, but like a whole like database with, multiple things for how she organizes her payments and her expenses and her taxable things and all of this stuff. She actually sent that to me. It's like, and it calculates taxes and does all this, like, oh God, thank you. I was going to have to make this myself. I was going to do that. I was going to make an Excel database or spreadsheet or whatever. I was going to make that so that I had all that, so that I could do all these numbers and calculate and all of the things and keep records. And it was cool because she made it. She had it. She sent it to me. So I have something that I can work from, and I can maybe twist and adjust and tweak and whatever I need to do. But it was so awesome of her to do that. I was like, what's cool is I've had more chats with her lately, especially because we're doing business together. I have a regular recurring, job that I do for her, and which is really awesome. A bit time consuming, but it's also something where I'm helping her, and by me helping her, it's helping me, and it's helping me in growing my business. And again, she helped me with the voiceover, aspect of it too. And all of this is helping to fund my, the establishment and getting my voiceover booth and studio and other equipment and things I need to develop that whole, growing career path and all those things. And so she's being just so, and I said before when I talked about the things as things are growing, but I also had a kind of a phone meeting with John from, Audio Editing Solutions, and he hosts Brand X podcast, and he's the producer for She Podcast and a bunch of other shows. And he's a pretty big guy at least to me, he's one of those like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to John Buchanan. And he's such a nice guy. And it's funny when you listen to him in the different shows. Also he's, he co-hosts Hate to Wait with Emily. And it's so funny hearing him on the different shows, hearing him on Brand X versus hearing him on Hate to Wait versus hearing him on She Podcast, and talking to him on the phone. He's a great big teddy bear of a guy. He's also a foul-mouthed, guy from Jersey with particularly strong opinions about things. What can I say? But, I may be doing some work for him, which would be great. I'm nervous as hell. I'm not going to lie. I feel like John's clientele, I know who John works with. I know shows that John does. And so it makes me nervous. I'm like, crap, I don't want to let him down. Not that I want to let Emily down, but it's like, shit. And I guess, for me, it's like, well, okay, now I'm playing with the big boys a little bit. I'm playing catch with the big boys. I'm not in the game. I'm playing catch with the big boys. But it's growing. And so, I've got to build logos. I've got to get a website. I've got to do all these other things to build this company up and create sort of a menu, I guess, and offerings and all the things. And that just takes so much time along with the work itself. I'm still doing the editing work during the day while I'm working at night. Fun. The goal being not having to work at night, but that's a future thing. That's down the line. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But like I said, that's not even everything I've had to deal with this week. I shouldn't say deal with. It wasn't like it was a bad thing. I mentioned before, I think I remember, took the boys to the dentist. Damien needs a bunch of fillings. So had to take him to go get a bunch of fillings. And of course, this was an 8 a.m. appointment. It was one of those, hey, my wife goes to schedule the appointment and she's like, hey, it's tomorrow morning. And I was like, I'm thinking 8:15. I don't know. It's like, okay, it's like 8 something in the morning. So I get the boys, of course I have to take all the boys, load up everybody to go get his fillings done and do all of that stuff. I think I talked about this last week with the whole cocoa bit. But yeah, it was like, he's like me. He just laughed through the whole procedure. They went and did 4 fillings on a 6-year-old, and instead of any sort of pain, he just laughed through the whole thing. And he was really mad when we got home that he couldn't eat lunch because it was lunchtime. I'm like, oh well, sorry, swelling hasn't gone down. Your face is still fluffy. It's like, you can eat after nap time. But, and it's funny because in that respect, he's very much like me. I've had, dental problems my whole life. I've had a ton of teeth pulled and things like that. Don't feel a damn thing. When I was a kid, when I was his age, I would sleep through the dentist chair. But I actually had some doctor visits this week myself, which I don't normally go to the doctor. I'm not going to lie. Other than back in November when I was really sick and I had to go to the doctor like several times over the course of a month for different medications, and this isn't working, and I'm still coughing, and this is still happening, and all of that craziness. It's like there's a pain in my side. Now there's a pain in my other side too. I can't breathe. All of that mess that happened back in November. I don't normally go to the doctor. You'd think after all of that I would make more regular checkups and do it. No, I don't go. But one thing that changed kind of is that we have vision insurance now. Like, my wife's supposed to wear glasses. She only wears them for work. I wear glasses. Bug wears glasses. And that's a big part of why we got the vision insurance now, is because Bug needs vision correction. He has to go to a specialist. So he has to go. We needed medical insurance. Mostly it covers glasses. Glasses are expensive. Except now we found a place where we can get cheap ass glasses. And I think the last time we got glasses for Bug, we had to get 2 pairs because he's 4 and he's going to break them. 2 pairs of glasses with express shipping, and it was like $40. It was ridiculous. And so the other day we went ahead and made use of our vision insurance, and I went and got my eyes checked. I haven't had my eyes checked in about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and went in, and they were like, yeah, you're pretty much the same. It hasn't really changed much. They're like, probably any vision loss you have is because your glasses are really scratched up. Like, yeah, I've had them for a while. They're cheap plastic lenses. But it turned into this whole fight with my wife when we were picking out glasses, because for the longest time, even up until, through my marriage, most of my marriage, I wore really thin style wireframe glasses. And then the last time I got glasses, we were broke. We had no insurance. And so I had to get the, big, thick, black plastic frames. And then it turned into a fight between, I wouldn't say a fight, but it turned into a battle between my wife and I about, no, I want wire frames. But I like these better. I know, but I like my wire frames. I had them for the longest time. And then it turned into her taking pictures of me in different styles and then sending to everybody asking, well, what do you think? And getting all these other opinions, and basically everybody sided with her. I was like, fuck, I can't argue with that. So I ended up having to order, I have to order. I could have ordered the wire frames that I wanted, but I feel like she'd have gotten mad and everybody would have been like, so I didn't. But we also had to get new glasses for Bug. And so, of course, again, 4-year-old, we're getting 2 pairs. So 2 pairs of glasses for Bug. I got a pair of glasses and I got a pair of sunglasses because, it's nice to have sunglasses when you live on the surface of the sun. But what was really funny was 4 pairs of glasses with, I think we did the premium shipping. We didn't do the super express shipping that's 2 days because we didn't need them that fast. I can see, Bug can see, we're fine. But with the kind of rush shipping, $50. 4 pairs of glasses, including one of them being prescription sunglasses, with rush shipping $50. I'm like, oh, I used to pay more than that per lens. That's almost what my eye exam costs. Really. And that's more than what my eye exams used to cost without insurance. Like, my eye exams used to be like $80-$90. Now it was like 10. And then I paid for the extra thingy, but that's a whole other thing. Like eye scan thing, checking for eye health, all that stuff. Anyway, all of that. But yeah, it was like $50 for 4 pairs of glasses and rush shipping, and damn, man, where was this like forever? I've paid so much for glasses for so long. Bug's first pair of glasses cost $300. The glasses I'm currently wearing cost me about $150. Yeah. Screw that. Never again. It's like I'm going to be paying $20 for glasses forever. But that wasn't the end of my medical journey. No. No, I don't remember. I've mentioned in the past, I know that way back in the day, when I was like 19, 20, somewhere around there, I had tried to get into the Army. And in the course of that, I discovered that, I've got extra bones in my knees that are kind of funny, but they're like, oh, whatever. My right leg is a half-inch longer than my left leg, which gives me scoliosis. Mild scoliosis, technically. And it's a bunch of, and at the time I was 15, 20 pounds underweight. I would have had to have bulked up by about 10 pounds to get a waiver for my weight for them to bulk me up the rest of the way. And, I've kind of always lived under this mild fear that I'm not in the greatest health. Again, not going to the doctor to find out, because I'm like, okay, my legs are all wonky. I've got funny bones. I've got scoliosis. I know that from a lung perspective, I do have compromised lungs on account of the bronchitis issues and things like that in the past. And, my diet isn't the greatest. And again, I was underweight for so long. And there was actually a point several years ago where I actually had a kidney stone and had to pass a kidney stone. And in the pass of that whole thing, they're like, do you know you've only got one kidney? And I'm pretty sure I've told this story before. So through the course of that whole adventure with the kidney stone bit, I find out I've got one extra large kidney. I've got an enlarged gallbladder. This is nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it's large. And my liver is small for my size. And it's just like, what? So all of my organs, I've got a giant, above average size head. This is another fun thing, genetic fun thing. I have a very large head for my body. Clinically speaking, I have a large head for my body. Doctors even measured it. The boys all do too. That's why I know this, because they measured me for comparison to make sure it wasn't like birth defect or anything. But anyway, I've got a bobblehead. I've got, mismatched legs on tiny feet. So my back is all jacked up. And then my organs are all, some of them missing. So they're all different sizes. Nothing matches up right. Just to add insult to injury, I have 2 moles on the side of my neck that my mom used to say were like neck bolts. We totally dressed me up as a Frankenstein monster several times for Halloween just because of that fact. And so it's like the running gag at work. It's like, dude, you're just like a Frankenstein. Like, yeah, pretty much. Taking more selfies lately, especially doing stepping back to the glasses thing, the website where we get the glasses, they do upload a selfie and we can you do like a virtual trial of the glasses and you can see what they look like on you, shit like that. I realize I have a funny shaped head. On top of it being large, I have a funny shaped head. Anyway, so all this, and then my diet and all these things, and I'm just thinking, I'm afraid to know what my health is like. Well, for my wife's insurance for her work, I needed to get one of those kind of biometric screening things. They basically do, basic health screening sort of stuff. Height, weight, do your BMI, was it waist size? What else did they do? And then they do the blood test and you check your cholesterol, blood pressure, all that stuff. Blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol, triglycerides, whatever the hell those are. And so they do all this stuff. And basically as they're going through all the checking my waist, doing all the different things, every test, it's like, oh, perfect. Like, what? I'm a hair under 6 foot. I'm just over 150 pounds, which now for the first time in my life, and I guess I mentioned it on the show back the first time I realized I weighed this much, but for the first time officially in my life, I'm normal. I'm no longer classified as underweight, which is weird. So I'm in the normal bracket for my height to weight, my BMI. I have a 30-inch waist. Or no, I think she got me 32. I have a 32-inch waist, which is about 4 inches more than it was 30 pounds ago, but normal, dead, perfect, exactly where it should be. So under 40 inches is where, for a person 6 foot tall, I should be under 40 inches. I'm like, all right. So my waist is normal. My height, my BMI, my height to weight ratio is normal. Granted, my body fat is still really low comparatively, but, and then she goes through the blood work and I'm like, oh crap, she's going to end up telling me I'm diabetic or some shit. And then they ask all the questions like, do you smoke? Do you use any nicotine products? Do you drink regularly? Do you, like, nope. It's like, don't drink regularly, very rarely drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't do this. It's like, all right, check, all these check marks. And when the blood comes back and it's like, oh, you're good cholesterol. It's great. Perfect. It's like bad cholesterol. Perfect. Triglycerides right where they need to be. And I'm just thinking, really? All I can think of is, wait, are you telling me I'm in good health? Comes back with, and the one that I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this right. Even with my blood pressure being good, I was surprised that because every time I've checked it myself, it's come back with like hypertension or pre-hypertension or something like that. And all that was great, perfect. I'm like, all right, I'm passing this health screening with flying colors, but I knew there was a glucose test, where they test your blood sugar. Now, my mom is diabetic, believe, or pre-diabetic. My grandmother was diabetic. And it just kind of runs in the family. And my personal diet, I consume much more sugar, much more carbs than I should. But I also know my body seems to defy medical science because of the sheer fact that I live on sugar, carbs, and fat. I eat very high fatty, high carbs, lots of bread, lots of pasta, lots of sugary drinks and things like that, lots of caffeine, which actually isn't bad for you, but all these things that they say are bad for you. That's my jet fuel. That's what I run on. But, she said, you're asking how were you fasting? When was the last time you ate? I was like, I just scarfed a bunch of pizza less than an hour ago, and I was drinking a Dr. Pepper when I walked in the door. I knew my glucose had to be through the roof. At least had to show that like, it was high because I ate or something. But I was expecting it to say I was diabetic. And I've always said I probably should be diabetic for my diet. Nope. Matter of fact, my glucose numbers were good for if I hadn't eaten in hours. My glucose level was so good, it didn't even look like I had just scarfed all that pizza and garlic bread and chugged a soda. Couldn't tell. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? For all intents and purposes, on paper, at least this piece of paper that they had to do for the insurance and all this stuff, I am in perfect health. My body is a mishmash of pieces and parts that don't seem to match together, but they all work in such a way that I am technically on paper for our insurance company in perfect health. How the hell did that happen? I have no clue. I'm completely dumbfounded by it. And when my wife asked me, how did it go? I was like, you don't want to know. With a big, silly face. She's like, what's that supposed to mean? It's like, apparently I'm in perfect health. My brother and I legit have feared for years going to the doctor. We're terrible about going to the doctor for checkups and screenings and all that stuff because we've not gone for so long and we've known that our lifestyle was never the healthiest. But we were always afraid, I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to tell me I have cancer. Or they're going to tell me I'm diabetic. They're going to tell me I've got this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to have to start my bucket list today. That was always the fear. Even though basically the men in our life, my dad's side of the family, all seem to kick in the low to mid 80s. It's basically, an uncle of mine died at 82. And my mom pointed that out and we just realized they all have died around the same time. My brother and I basically have a kill date on our heads. And it was like, thanks a lot. That just kind of sucked the life out of this crap. But it was crazy to think. We were always afraid of that though. We're like, I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to tell me just something awful. We never went to the doctor getting a checkup or anything with confidence. It was always a fear that they're going to tell us something terrible. And that's kind of how I went into it. I'm like, you're going to tell me that I'm diabetic. You've got to tell me I'm diabetic. I'm like, nope, you're great. Internally, all of my parts and pieces, however mismatched as they may be, all work great. It surprised the hell out of me. Which, it's a good surprise to have. Shit, it's the best surprise I could have imagined. But I was expecting, like I said, I got one kidney. My gallbladder is too big. My liver is too small, which is really weird considering an Irish Mexican who I may not drink a lot, but when I do, I can put it away. If, game night with my sisters and we're all drinking, I can keep up very heartily. So it's kind of funny to me that my liver is technically too small. But all of these things, I'm like, nope, you're good. It's just weird. Such a weird thing. Again, my health defies medical science. That's why, they always say you're practicing medicine because it's such a weird thing. So, oh man. I know, long bit today. Just so much going. My brain just going on and on and on. But I'm going to take a quick promo break and I will be right back with the news.
With all the gaming sites full of editorials and fluff pieces, it can be hard to stay up to date on the news from the gaming industry. The Sometimes Geek podcast is a quick and easy listen each week that covers the major headlines and the occasional review, with thoughts from an everyday gamer. You can find us at sometimesgeek.com or on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Greetings and salutations, this is Fuzzy Dan from Who Spiked the Puns. Each week, with the help of some of my special friends from around the internet, we'll be mashing together two disparate movies to make something unexpectedly awesome. This is the podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously, because everybody knows bad puns don't fly. Find me now on whospikedthepuns.com or on a podcatcher near you.
This is Stefan Cocking, producer of The Mole Man Show, and for some reason, you are listening to this boner-taming goblin farmer, Adam Higgins, on the Surprise Motherfucker Network.
Bullshit from the news.
First up, woman asks delivery driver to kill spider. A woman in the UK was so terrified of a spider on her wall that she actually called to order from a food delivery service in order to have the driver kill it for her. Fortunately for her, the driver wasn't also afraid of spiders and was able to capture the spider and flush it down the toilet. Wow. What I find funny is not that she did it. What I find funny is I could absolutely see my wife doing this. If it weren't for the fact that I've got boys, and, well, I can't even say that. My boys are afraid of spiders too. But my wife is absolutely horrified and terrified of spiders, and the picture I have in the show notes is just a tarantula that I've used several times. It's on the show artwork for the episode. It's a big ass tarantula, full spread. If I just posted that for her in her Facebook feed, she would be blowing up my phone, texting me, telling me to take it down, take it down, take it down, take it down. I did that once with a picture of Pennywise the clown, and she got really mad at me. But I can't totally fault her. Not because it's like, oh my God, it's a spider. And it wasn't even a huge spider, but it wasn't, big tarantula or something like I posted, but I understand that like arachnophobia especially really cripples people. And I knew a guy who couldn't stand looking at a spider that I couldn't even tell was a spider. I thought it was just dust blowing around on the floor. No, it's a spider. He freaked the hell out, almost crying. So I understand this. And she said she has like trouble sleeping because she's afraid of the spiders that might be around when she's asleep. She's afraid to fall asleep. So A, she needs therapy. B, you know what? At least she was being she was a little, used some ingenuity to dispatch her spider problem. But what was funny was that she actually, when she called the service, because it was like, I think she ordered KFC or something, kind of like, I guess the UK version of, if you know, Uber Eats, where you make a food order like McDonald's or whatever and they go pick it up for you. Basically the same thing, just a different company. And so she called them and said, hey, I have a spider. Do you think if I order some food, the delivery driver can kill the spider for me? And they were like, we can put it in the notes, but we can't guarantee that the driver isn't going to be afraid of spiders too. And we can't guarantee they're going to be able to help you. And they were like, whatever, at least it's worth a shot. But the guy that showed up was not afraid of spiders and was willing to help her. And, again, caught the spider and flushed it down the toilet. Kind of funny thing, while I was writing this up in the show notes, my son was looking over my shoulder because he's nosy as shit and saw that they flushed the spider down the toilet. He's like, why didn't they just stomp it? Like, I don't know. Don't ask me these things. Maybe they didn't want spider guts on the wall or the floor. I don't know, but they caught the spider and flushed it. But anyway, moving right along. Speaking of dead spider, I told you everything tangentially gets to death today. Artist gets buried alive for 3 days to protest violence. A 73-year-old Australian performance artist recently spent 3 days buried under one of the busiest roads in Tasmania to protest 20th century totalitarian violence in all its forms. Quote, the stunt was done as part of the Tasmanian Dark Mofo Festival. I'm assuming that it's the standard definition of mofo. And consisted of burying the man inside of a steel box underneath the road with no food for 3 days while they placed the pavement back over the surface of the road to allow traffic to continue flowing for 3 days. So this wasn't like a David Blaine, I'm going to be suspended in a block of ice over Times Square for a week kind of crap. This was, I'm going to be buried under the road, and oh yeah, the road still has to be functional. I was part of the agreement with the Tasmanian authorities and the government and all that stuff was like, okay, we'll let you do this thing. But they basically told the organizers, you are responsible for cutting open the road, doing what you need to do, and you need to close up the road so that it is still functional while this guy is under there for 3 days. We can't have the road closed for 3 days because you dug a hole. And so they did. And what kind of sucks was, as this event has taken this guy probably 10 years to do, he's been trying to do it for years, and there's just been setback after setback over safety concerns because the guy's burying himself under a road. And so when it was like, hey, we're doing this thing. They got somebody to build the box for him. And the guy who found out what it was for, and he said, hell no. and backed out. So the event organizers had to build the box. They had to do all the safety tests and equipment. You know, they had to make sure he was getting air because they did have to make sure there was, you know, air ventilation and all those sort of things for him. And he apparently was sitting and reading. He had some, like a water bottle or something like that, but he was reading and meditating, doing all this. Like, you know, this is kind of a mild cop out. You know, I granted if you were sitting there just blank for 3 days with no stimulation or anything, I get it. He would probably go kind of batty, but you know, it's almost a cheap kind of a cop out. Like, oh, he's sitting there reading, and meditating, and probably doing a lot of sleeping for 3 days, just buried under the road. But you know, again, to kind of protest, and I assume it's kind of a buried alive and representative of, you know, people that have died under military conflict, things like that. And especially, I think the article mentions that in Tasmania, there's the Tasmanian, I think they call it the Black War, and I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, where they had, let me see, I'll look it up right now. Basically, it was the extermination of the indigenous people in Tasmania. Let's see. The Black War in the 19th century, where the British settlers, basically the white Australians who came, the British, you know, that populated Australia and Tasmania in that area, they basically killed off the native Tasmanians. And so they were like, that's probably had a lot to do with why Tasmania agreed to let him do this, because Germany said hell no. But it's a crazy sort of thing. It's like buried alive. And I'm not one for performance art, and I'm not one for people who do these endurance performance art. Again, David Blaine shouldn't be called a musician. He's not a musician. He's a illusionist. But, you know, his big tricks are, like Chris Rock said, I'm going to sit in a box and not eat. You know, that's what it is. Like, I'm going to be hovering in a block of ice for 4 days. You know, it's just endurance. It's not a magic trick. So things like that. I don't get those sort of things. It's just not me. I don't understand performance art. What can I say? Well, I guess I said it. I don't understand performance art. But going from buried alive to buried in a beamer, Nigerian man buried inside $90,000 BMW. Recently, photos of a funeral went viral when a Nigerian man buried his father in a brand new BMW X5 valued at about $90,000. A lot of people online are quite upset that he would spend so much money on a luxury car just to bury his dad in it, rather than maybe use that money to help improve the lives of the people in the surrounding area. And yeah, that's kind of a fair point. Dude, even if he had to go into crippling debt or whatever he did, dude, that money you live there. Or even if you are rich and you can't afford the $90,000 BMW to bury your dad, really, he's dead. What is the point of putting your dad in a car? You know, it's not like, you know, I could see when Sam Raimi dies, I bet he's going to be buried in his old car that he puts in every single movie. You know, it was in Evil Dead. It was in all, you know, that car. If you know a Sam Raimi movie, his car makes an appearance in every movie. It's like, you know, Papa John's GTO or whatever the fuck he has on the stupid commercials. You know, I get that. It's like an iconic thing. Like, oh, I've had this car my whole life, you know, and they bury you in the car. Fine. Al Bundy getting buried in his Dodge, if you can, you know, recall that reference. But this guy bought a brand new SUV just to stick his dad in it. That's wasteful. You really should be more considerate of the fact that you live in Nigeria, mostly, you know, near the jungle. You could be helping people with that money, not being kind of a selfish dick. I understand you want to send your dad out in style, but that's a waste of damn money. Straight up waste of money. I side with the people that say you could have done something better. Getting further away from death and more into the tangentially connected, ambulance crashes while responding to a crash. An ambulance in Sacramento crashed into another vehicle while responding to another two-car crash. Strangely, the victims of the original crash were uninjured, but the passengers of the vehicle in the ambulance crash had to be taken to the hospital for pain. Big air quotes here. Pain. You're going to the hospital for, oh my God, I'm going to sue the shit out of the ambulance drivers. This is a city ambulance. I'm suing the city and the state and everybody else that I could possibly consider. I'm suing the dispatcher. That's why they went to the hospital. So, yeah, apparently the ambulance hit somebody. And I'm not even going to fault the ambulance on this. Why? They have big fucking flashing lights that tell you, get the fuck out of my way. I'm an ambulance. Get out the way. To quote the song, move, bitch. Get out the way. I'm a motherfucking ambulance. Okay, that's not how the song goes. But that's basically what the big flashy lights and sirens on top of an ambulance mean. I'm coming through. Get out of the way. Get out of the intersection. Wherever the hell you are. There's an emergency vehicle coming. Move. They didn't move. They got hit. Ambulance couldn't go take care of the other people that were already in a car crash. Fortunately for them, they were okay. What's really funny is I don't have the picture up of the ambulance crash, but if you click the link in the show notes of the ambulance crash. The ambulance crashed outside of a hospital. Oh man. That's convenient, I imagine. The people that were hit could just walk to the hospital right there. But you see it's right on the corner. Those signature signs, hospital here sort of things. And it's like, wow, they crashed the ambulance crashed in front of a hospital. Is that ironic, coincidental? Funny. It's funny. But yeah, move out of the way. That's it. Emergency vehicles coming. Move. All right. Now, this came to me courtesy of Chris the Mole Man. It's time for the Jackass of the Week. Couple having sex delays Oklahoma traffic. Oklahoma City police received calls claiming there was a man with his pants down laying on top of a woman under a tree right off of the highway. When officers arrived on site, the couple were still going at it and only stopped when they noticed the police walking up. They were both booked for public drunkenness and indecent exposure. So the twist in this, the woman, this was her second arrest for basically the same thing as the article describes this particular display of affection. Now, I've got their mugshots in the show notes. odddadoutpodcast.com/ODO110, one word. You will see their mugshots. I'm not gonna say this dude ain't good looking. Yeah, I am. This guy reminds me of, I forget the name of that fish. There's that fish that looks like a human face. He looks like that. And really what the pictures look to me and the situation looks to me like they're homeless. It really does. Or she's a prostitute. And I don't say she's a prostitute because he's not a good looking guy and they were having sex under a tree by the highway. I say because this is her second arrest for sex in public. And they were having sex under a tree next to a highway. So all those things kind of scream out to me, she's a prostitute, and they're not catching her for prostitution. They're catching her for sex in public because they can't prove any transaction or whatever. I don't know. But those little details, like, why are you having sex in public? You're like out in the open, under a tree next to the highway in Oklahoma City, with all the people like rubbernecking. That was what got everybody's attention. was basically, it was slowing down traffic because everybody could see it. It was like 5:30 in the afternoon. This was during rush hour traffic. They're having sex on the side of the highway. And yeah, totally see that. It's like, oh my God, do you see that over there? And everyone's rubbernecking. And they're blocking traffic. You're holding up traffic with your nobody wants to see that sex act. So, bleh, stop it. But, yeah, just don't. And, ew. All right, I'm gonna take one more quick break. I got some promos for you, and I will be right back.
Want to know the story behind Podern Family? Podern Family started with a hashtag for indie podcasters. The podcasters who do this for fun and because we're passionate. We're not the big podcast you hear about, most likely. We don't have 10 to 15 people helping us with production. But that doesn't mean the quality and content you're getting isn't as good as any of those shows. Is there an area of interest you like talking to people about? Listen to an indie podcast on that topic. The hosts are incredibly reachable. We're basically clamoring to hear from listeners. We're just as much your fans as you are ours. No matter what you're interested in, Podern Family's got a show for you. Like movies and TV? Check out the Epic Film Guys, the Something Something Cast, the Boxers, or the Countdown Movie and TV Review. Do you like comedy? Check out Everyone Has a Podcast, The One Word Go Show, Afterburn 739, Now That I'm Older, Rick and Paul Heal the World, or Off in the Weeds. How about random trivia and fun facts? Check out The Endless Knot, or The Story Behind. Like comic books and geek culture? Check out Geek Yogurt Podcast or Little Geek Lost. I could go on, and believe me when I say there are a whole lot more where that came from. But you can find all these and more by searching the hashtag Podern Family on Twitter.
Hello, it's Heather from Sunshine and Power Cuts, the podcast that features two types of episodes which alternate. The Sunshine ones offer inspiration drawn from nature, but in the Power Cut ones, I share honest insights into my life living off the power grid in rural New Zealand. If you'd like to check it out, it can be found where good podcasts can be downloaded, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SunPowerPod. Until then, be empowered by nature.
So, this week, I don't really have a recommended listening, and it's not because, well, in part because I really didn't know what to pick. And there's a couple shows that I've started listening to, but I'm not going to go through full blow recommendation, and some that were like, it's on a break right now. So I don't like recommending shows while they're on, like, between seasons, things like that. I mentioned the dirty bits previously, kind of, that's the situation there. Well, but I did decide that since I'm not going to do a recommended listening feature this week, I did want to mention the results of the poll that I posted up last week that I mentioned in the show. It was just kind of asking, what's your favorite part of the show? Because I'm generally curious about those things, and I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. What can I say? And it kind of surprised me. I really didn't know what to expect from the results. And it was kind of funny because whenever I hear people talk about the show, a lot of what, I guess a particular segment of people, I guess, a lot of it's just say how much they love the news and all the weird news, and they especially love the Jackass of the Week, and they're always kind of that one's their favorite part. And it probably just because me being a snarky asshole. I don't know, but I always get that that's such, a popular segment of the show. But I was surprised to find, let me bring it up here. So, for just the news in general, 27% of people said their favorite part of this is just the news. And of course, the Jackass of the Week is kind of a segment of the news, but I get 20% of people said it's the Jackass of the Week. But 33%, basically a third of people, and 49 votes, I can't do that math right now, but 33% of people that voted said it's the stories and the rants and ramblings and all the crap that I do at the beginning of the show. And that's kind of funny to me, I guess, because that's the show as it started. That segment is the genesis of the show. That's where it was. It was me rambling and ranting and whatever. And it's kind of interesting for me in part because never mind that I had a lot of breaks in production and things like that and missed weeks and maybe months at a time early on. But when I made the jump from just my random crap to the news, I saw a significant drop in listeners. And seeing this poll now, I really think maybe I should do away with the news. And obviously there's a substantial portion of people who do enjoy that side of the show. But it's kind of like I've mentioned before, my wife is sort of my sounding board for things. And my wife tunes out at the news. Straight up, she's like, yeah, I listened to the first segment of the show, and as soon as that's over, I cut it out. She doesn't care for the rest of the show. And I realized there's probably, because my show is so disjointed, because it does have all of those sort of elements to it, the news for me, it's becoming more and more of a chore. It's the one part of the show that I have to work at. And granted, it's not a bad thing that I have to work at it, but it is the one part of the show that I do have to put in the most work, when for the most part, the rest of the show is me talking about things. It's me telling stories or rambling, and the whole point of me having the news segment in there was it stemmed from in the early days of the show when I didn't have anything to talk about. And so I started pulling news stories to talk about, and it became a news and me rambling about stuff from the news. That was basically the show for a good chunk of time while I was kind of shaping things around. And I started reintroducing more of my own stories and things like I originally had done. And of course, then I started doing recommended listening because I just like sharing podcasts. And even though that segment, the recommended listening segment, only rated 20%, which matched up with the Jackass of the Week segment. And it's sort of become, I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give up my recommended listening segment because it's one of my big things. I love supporting other podcasts, and it's a big part of who I am. I love supporting the indie podcast community. I love sharing the things that I love. And as much as I love like the snarkiness and the making fun of the news stuff, I think I may just cut the news out. I don't know. I'm really kind of thinking about it. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while. And in part because it's a lot of work, and I find it difficult at times to find stories that, like this week in particular, this was kind of a tough week to find stories for. And I didn't, until Chris sent me that story for the Jackass of the Week about the couple on the highway, I didn't have one. And I was just going to kind of skip it. And I was actually almost to the point of just skipping the whole news segment because I kind of felt like the news was pretty weak. And it's a tough segment to do. And as much as it's the one segment of the show where I can stretch my voice as such, and I basically get to turn on announcer voice and read the news and do the headlines, and some guy was being a dumb shit on the highway, news at 10. I get to do that, but it's kind of funny. And it's not that I don't enjoy it, but I'm really thinking maybe it's time to let the news go. I've been doing that segment for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I'm thinking maybe I should get rid of it. I don't know. Guess what? I'm going to do another poll. Why? Because I think it's worth it. I think it's worth posting up. I think it's worth, I want it to come from you, listeners. I want you to tell me what I should do with the news. I already know what my wife's vote is. She said, get rid of it. Fuck it. Get rid of the news. She's perfectly content with listening to me ramble for 30 minutes like I did today. and like I'm doing now. This is the part, and I feel like maybe this is the direction that the show needs to grow back into. As much as I love the news, as much as I love making fun of stuff, maybe I need to lean more into I shake my head and maybe have that sort of bit. And maybe I'll keep the jackass of the week. I'll just have one story I pull that I'll just, because doing a whole news segment, especially the way I did it, some of it gets kind of haterade, you know? But I think I'll keep the jackass of the week. I think I will, even though it rated lower, but it's part of the news. I think it's just this is the thing, and I like to keep that. And so I think what I'm going to do going forward, I'm going to cut back on the news. I'm going to cut the news back. I'm going to talk more. You're welcome. I'm sure half of you are like, fuck, no, run. But I think I'm going to be me more. And I'm going to, I think that's going to be it. The show's maybe getting shorter because, I feel like a lot of the time I was just doing the news to do the news. And I feel like it's kind of not worth it for me putting that work into the show when I could be doing I could be more of myself, I guess. Even though, like, the snark of it is absolutely, it's all me. The commentary of the news is all me. But reading the news, I don't care about some guy being stupid. It's like, it's funny, and it's shit I read, but it's, I do it for entertainment. I looked to the news and all the weird stuff as something to do for the sake of comedy and to make fun of stuff. And I realized I just do that on my own. I crack jokes and things anyway. So tell me what you think. I need to make a poll. I think I need to come up with a way, make the poll on the website, probably put it up at the top of the page. It may not be up there immediately, but check back. I'm gonna give it a couple of weeks, really. Let it work its way out. I'll probably come back I'll keep doing the news for a few weeks, because I've still got a few weeks until I go on vacation. Reminder, guys, coming up in July is my regular vacation. But that aside, I do have a few weeks, and I'll keep going for a bit, but I want to hear what you have to say. Let me know. Drop me an email, show@odddadoutpodcast.com. Hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to post a poll up on Twitter again. I'm going to post it up in the Facebook page, not just the group, because I think I put it in the group last time. I'm going to put it on the Facebook page this time at facebook.com/odddadout. I'm going to throw the polls up there. I'll put one up on the website. I'll bring them all together for you. And I'm going to see if you really want the news. If you really want me to keep doing the news, let me know. But I'm really kind of leaning towards retiring the main news segment and just going into just a jackass of the week. Just one schmuck that deserves some recognition. And the rest will be more of my ramblings personally. And maybe I'll split off the news into another show. Maybe I'll just do that. I'll kind of assume Mike Jolett's old show, and I'll just do all the news stuff separately. Maybe. I don't know. But, if I've got the time, that's a whole other thing. If I've got the time, maybe I'll do another news show. But, all of that aside, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in and putting up with my crap and all of my extra long ramblings this week. Remember, like I didn't just say it all, hit me up, drop me a message, tell me what you think. Show@odddadoutpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @odddadout. Subscribe, rate, review, do all the things. odddadoutpodcast.com. And Until next week, I'm Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. Thank you and good night.